The Hamilton-Wentworth Catholic District School Board is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase, 1792, between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Bishop Tonus, on this beautiful day, let's start it with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. And we continue to offer our prayers for the special intention of a staff member as we continue on the sixth stage of our journey to Calvary. Veronica wipes the face of Jesus. Veronica was so moved by the sight of Jesus' suffering that she courageously moved out from the crowd to wipe the blood and sweat from his face with a towel. She was rewarded when the image of his face was transferred to the towel. It is a suffering face, disfigured with wounds. Yet this is the only image of himself that Jesus chose to leave with us. Jesus, give your wounded church the courage of Veronica, so that we may wash the face of Christ clean from the disfigurements of our sin. Help us to bring healing to the scars that hide the beauty of your face to our world. Give us the faith to continue to build your church as a visible sign of your love and compassion. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Morning, Titans. It is Monday, March 22nd. My name is Quinn Buchanan, and let's get right into the announcements. From Mrs. Alfano, hey Schism students, on March 23rd and 24th, we will be hosting Schism Day. You can wear your Schism t-shirt with uniform bottoms to school on your cohort day. Please see Mrs. Alfano to pick up a t-shirt today after 1:15 p.m. in the co-op office, or if you're a cohort C student, you can come by when you pick up your yearbook. If you did not get the chance to order a shirt, she has managed to get extras in another color. Also, all Schism students in grades 11 and 12, and anyone in grade 10 who has signed up with Mrs. Alfano for next year's Schism group, will have a mandatory ICE training Thursday, March 25th. You will be dismissed from class at 12 p.m. to get home and attend the online event. There will be a follow-up activity that you will have time to complete. From Student Council, attention Titans, a reminder that applications for the 2021 to 2022 Student Council President are due today by 2:30. In order to qualify, you must have a 75% average, demonstrated leadership experience, and a desire to help your fellow Titans. Please pick up the package in the main office or download a copy off the school website. For more information, please feel free to pop by the main office. from Student Services. The course selections in MyPath deadline has been extended to March 26th. Please make sure that you add the courses to your backpack no later than that date. Once the courses are added to the backpack, you do not need to perform any other actions. There is no submit button. Once MyPath is closed on May 26th, any changes made to the backpack will not be recorded. And now, we have a special guest, Mrs. Alfano.
Good morning, everyone. Just one point of clarification. That's actually March 26th. Your backpack needs to be complete by March 26th, and then guidance will collect that for you. Thanks to everyone who joined us for our presentation last week on Thursday with Bernice and Clara regarding our allyship presentation for the Unified Cultures group. We have recorded it and we'll be showing it again today. So teachers, could you please leave your TVs on? It's a wonderful and an important presentation. We really appreciate your attention. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Teachers, anyone who has not gotten an SHSM t-shirt, I'm going to put some in the staff room, so anyone who would like to pick one up can do so today. Thanks so much.
Hey BT, I'm Clara Favo on behalf of the Unified Cultures Club. In any movement, you need leaders and you need allies. We are here to talk about allyship and how to actively promote a culture of justice and inclusion. The journey starts with you. It's not about being non-racist, it's about being anti-racist. We want to show you a video that touches upon how you can be a better anti-racist.
Person's job to teach white people about racism because they just showed up to the party.
White people in particular associate racism with being kind of the overtly bad acts. But in fact, some of the manifestations of racism that are the most resilient are part of what white people call normal.
It is exhausting to be in this moment and hear from friends or people who are complicit in those microaggressions or in those subtle instances of racism that Black people navigate every day.
I experienced it 5 minutes before I got on this call with you.
People all across the United States are probing how we deal with race more critically and incorporating more anti-racism into their everyday lives. But one of the problems we've all come across is white people getting it wrong. So today we're going to tackle why that's happening and how to do better. I'm Nicole Ellis, and this is the new normal. Hopefully.
I have about 70 unread texts right now, and not because I'm avoiding it, but just because I don't have the room for it. I can't answer the same question over and over again.
Tiffany is a professional hairstylist in Austin, Texas, who's been really vocal about her frustration with her white friends. And a lot of Black people agree with her.
We're definitely in a moment where everyone is asking Black and brown people for advice and resources.
Nicole created a racial justice toolkit in 2016 after the shooting death of Philando Castile. But back then, nobody really cared about it.
Really though, now you want to talk about it, when the Black Lives Matter movement started, I felt like that was a whole summer where people were dying, and now we're here again.
I've experienced a lot that I have suppressed my entire life because nobody seemed to care until, what week was it, 2 weeks ago?
Are you going to turn this off after it stops becoming trendy?
I don't know anybody who likes hearing they're bad at something, especially when it comes to racism. But in reality, the only way to truly evolve as an anti-racist is to learn how to take criticism.
You will be checked, and the thing to do is to fight back your defensive reaction, fight back the urge to explain what you really meant. Absolutely no crying. That is experienced as oppressive by people of color who actually have just done you a favor by going out of their way to give you some feedback. There's really a cost-benefit analysis to confronting somebody on one of those. So that person just took a gamble that you're going to rise to the occasion and meet them there.
Once you're over getting checked, take a more critical look at what informs your worldview and why it's so easy to assume that people who don't look like you share your perspective.
White people's idea of normal is actually a cultural context characterized by whiteness. So educating yourself about what whiteness is, like where whiteness resides in everyday life, in everyday assumptions, everyday practices, how that results in the living while black scenarios.
Another great way to educate yourself is to read.
I love to see people taking initiative to educate their friends, put things on the internet. And I keep referring to the internet because it is the biggest source of information that we have.
I want to talk about what performative support is and how to not do that.
People kind of like performing the actions that go along with being an ally, but yet there isn't that sort of lifelong look towards changing the way that we are in the world.
I saw a lot of people I know that hadn't said a word, hadn't posted anything before, and I know personally have been racist, and then you want to post a black square on Blackout Tuesday? Bro, that's not it.
Anything can be performative if you're doing it without commitment and you're doing it without follow-up and you're not doing it as a way of life. What's needed is a new way of life, a new anti-racist way of life, a new normal. So if the first thing you did was post the black square, and now you're seeing things online like the black square is superficial and it's performative, just make sure that for you, it's a first step.
And if you're still trying to figure out your next step, start at home.
Part of the problem has been that white people don't talk about these issues. You should always start at home. You should talk to your own white family and friends and community members if you can about all that's going on.
You definitely should be bringing up issues regarding racism, not so much with your black friends and colleagues who are kind of exhausted right now and they're trying to survive, but in your white networks.
Thinking about this as like a lifelong commitment is really, really important. The struggle is not going to end overnight.
Black people have been surviving racism for their whole life. Just be about doing the work and taking up your role in helping push those movements forward.
We're going to continue to cover stories like this, so stay tuned. For more stories like this, find us on thelily.com and washingtonpost.com.
So for example, if you participated in Blackout Tuesday online, great. The key is to make sure that the first step is to do more. One of the big takeaways from the video is learning how to take criticism and accept feedback. The process is about learning and unlearning.
After looking at yourself, you start to look outward, and the journey really starts at home and starts with conversation. As BT is our home away from home, we are hoping to start the conversation here. But we also hope that you take it home to your parents, grandparents, and siblings. Talking about racism, especially if your family members have racist points of view, can be uncomfortable. Keep in mind that a lot of positive things can come out of talking to people who disagree with you. Here's a video about how to talk to racist parents and family members.
Around talking about racism, people are dying because white people aren't having conversations about racism.
As Americans think more critically about what it means to be anti-racist, a lot of people are realizing that journey starts at home by having conversations with your family. And some have started doing that, but it's not exactly an easy conversation to have.
How can I approach my parents when it comes to things about racism without feeling like I am annoying them or in a way that gets them excited and wanting to learn more about it rather than just getting like the, oh, not again.
Today's episode is about how to confront racist family members. I'm Nicole Ellis, and this is The New Normal. Before you can have a productive conversation about how someone else is racist, you've got to come to terms with the fact that you might be racist too, or at the very least, that you benefit from racism.
The problem with racism is the problem of white people. It's created by white people. It's perpetuated by white people. It benefits white people. We don't even know what being white is or how we came to be white. Like, we understand so little because we aren't meant to understand. That's how the system perpetuates itself, because it exists in silence, it's wrapped in silence, and we learn not to question it.
In the US, we're all taught that white men are the protagonists of American history. Being an anti-racist means questioning that narrative and thinking more critically about how that informs the cultural and systemic biases that you benefit from as a white person.
The more you can approach a conversation like this from your own stance as a learner, that's going to be helpful, because, like, get it straight, you are still learning if you're white.
It's also really important to be honest with yourself about your own motivations for having these conversations.
What are you trying to get out of this conversation? Is it that you enjoy having a thing or two to tell to your parents? Those are all very human temptations that we've all indulged in from time to time. Clear that up with yourself. Then you can start to be more strategic with regard to tips for talking about racism, tips for having conversations with people about almost anything.
Why is it white people's duty to stay committed to having these conversations and not decide that it's just too hard to talk about?
I see some white people, on Facebook saying, I've unfriended all of my racist relatives. And I think, oh my gosh, what opportunity you have with your white privilege to actually be able to reach out to family members and to have these conversations with white people. And that's a privilege that people of color don't have in that same way.
Part of leveraging your privilege as an anti-racist is talking to white people who disagree with you.
It is not up to Black people to educate everybody. It should not be. And so this is a place where white people can really take on those efforts on themselves.
Tanya Israel is the author of Beyond Your Bubble, where she coaches people on how to have conversations about polarizing issues.
The first important thing is listening, and what we call listening to understand rather than listening to respond. And so really being curious and trying to know where somebody's coming from. Because if you want to maintain that family connection, that's going to be important.
How do you have these kinds of conversations with family members, particularly when you know that they're going to disagree with you?
Nobody likes to be lectured, including you yourself, who's getting ready to facilitate the conversation. So the more you can ask open-ended questions that invite conversation, rather than coming in to sort of pontificate and speechify and tell them a thing or two.
We can get evangelical about things that we've just embraced and we're really excited about and energized by and upset about and angry about. So I think it's really helpful to express that somewhere, but not necessarily to express that with the people who we're hoping we can move to shift their views.
What is the benefit of being vulnerable in this kind of conversation with somebody who's racist?
We all have grown up in a racist society. There are a lot of people who 2 months ago were kind of in the same place their parents are. So I think it's helpful to talk about that process, to talk about their own journey of how they've come to see things and how their views may have shifted and how questions have come up for them, rather than just using the statistics or the slogans.
Your kids, they'll inherit this world just like it is. If we aren't honest with each other about what's happening and what it's done to us and what we need to do together to move past it.
In the next episode, we'll talk about why it's important for non-Black people of color to start having these conversations too. So stay tuned. For more stories like this one, subscribe to The Washington.
The issue at hand is greater than my discomfort. And if I say I am an ally, that means engaging in conversation. Racism wrapped in silence is still racism. We have to question it.
Next, we want to show you a video titled Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. The speaker in the video addresses questions he's been asked by his white friends and explains how they can stand with the Black community.
Welcome to the first of hopefully many episodes of Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man. In the midst of all this chaos in our world, so many of y'all have reached out to me, and by y'all, I mean white people, have reached out to me asking, how can I help? How can I join in? How can I stand with you? So I've created this for you. Because in order to stand with us and people that look like me, you have to be educated on issues that pertain to me and fully educated so that you can feel the full level of pain so that you can have full understanding. I fervently believe that if the white person is your problem, only the white person can be your solution. And so this is made for you, my white brothers and sisters, to increase your level of understanding so that you can increase your level of compassion and lead ultimately to change. So consider this a safe space to answer so many questions that I've seen from y'all. The first question I've seen a lot of, Emmanuel, why are y'all rioting? I understand protesting, but why riot? And to that I submit this. MLK said that rioting is the language of the unheard. For years, black people have tried peacefully protesting, going back to 1965 and before with the Selma March, and that didn't work. And then in 2016, Colin Kaepernick, he took a knee, and that agenda got moved to a flag, which was never the goal. He just wanted to raise awareness on social injustice. So that didn't work. And so now we've seen riots because black people and hurt people are trying to get the attention of the oppressor. They're trying to raise awareness of the oppression. I was biking around Lake Austin the other day, and there was a white girl about 15 meters ahead of me. And as I'm on my bike, I say to her, on your left, because I want to notify her I'm coming so that she can change her course of action. I get 10 meters away and I increase my voice, on your left, because she had yet to move. I get 5 meters away and she's still there, and I say, on your left, because I realize if she doesn't change her course of action, there will be a collision. And as I approach her, I yell, on your left, and we collide. My goal was never to hit her, but because she had her headphones in, she didn't hear me, and so she didn't change her course of action. I believe that that's the same thing black people are doing now. 1960s, we're yelling, we're oppressed. But the course of action wasn't changed. And so we again yell, we're oppressed, but the course of action wasn't changed. And so again we yell, we're oppressed. And now you see the collision that's occurred in America. So while I don't condone rioting, and I'm sure you don't either, because for the most part, black people and others that are looting and rioting destructively, they're burning down their own homes. But when you think about the 5 different stages of grief, you come up to one stage, which is called anger. And sometimes emotions, they don't know their actions. I remember my mom, when I was a child, she lost her sister, and I just remember her yelling and screaming. And I come outside my room and I see my mom throwing herself into a wall, and I'm wondering what happened. And my dad tells me that my mom's sister had died. Thinking back on that, throwing yourself into a wall, it's not going to change anything. You're actually harming yourself. But sometimes pain and hurt, it doesn't know how to express itself. You know, another question I get from my white friends, they ask me, why do you think white privilege exists? And I say this, if you and I were in a race and the official at the start line, they held me back for the first 200 meters, and you had a 200 meter then head start, the only way to level out that race is to either stop you from running or put me on a golf cart and catch you up and catch myself up. Well, you see, what we've done in America is we've simply said, okay, Emmanuel, you're now free to run. And we've acted as if it's a fair race, when in all honesty, black people were held back for hundreds of years. And so if in the late 1960s we say, okay, black people, you can go now, that's not a fair race. LBJ, he said it best when he said, you can't shackle and chain someone for hundreds of years, liberate them to freely compete with the rest, and still justly believe that you've been fair. So white privilege it's having a head start due to hundreds and hundreds of years of systematic and systemic racism. It's having a head start intrinsically built into your life. It's not saying your life hasn't been hard, but what it's saying is your skin color hasn't contributed to the difficulty in your life. I live in an affluent neighborhood in Austin, Texas, and if I ever go to my mailbox and I see a white woman walking up to the mailbox, I consciously sit in my car because I don't want her to feel like I'm a threat. If I'm on an elevator with a white person, I try to hit the button first and get off the elevator first because I don't want them to perceive me as a threat, because I realize at any point in time, whiteness can be weaponized. We saw that this past week. Amy Cooper, Central Park, the woman who called the cops on a black man who wanted her to leash her dog because it was illegal to walk your dog without a leash. And she used 2 words that are a death sentence for black people. When she called the cops, she said, there's a black man who's threatening my life. Both of those things, as far as when you compile them together, were a lie. Because that black man, he was a bird watcher. And while so many people saw that incident and they were heartbroken, I, as a black man, saw that incident and was reminded of 1955. Emmett Till, 14-year-old boy who was lynched, mutilated, and killed by 2 white men because a white woman made a false claim saying that he flirted with her. In 2017, that white woman recanted that story. In 1956, the 2 white men that killed him, they got off. And they admitted that they did it because they knew they couldn't be charged again due to double jeopardy. That, to me, is white privilege. The ability to weaponize your whiteness and the ability to live life unconsciously. Because I, as a black man, have to calculate every move I make the second I walk outside my house. Another question I get that I'm sure several of y'all have thought, if not your kids have, how come black people can
Sally.
no more than the slave to a master? We were viewed as dirt, and that word is synonymous with that. So there is a visceral reaction whenever we hear that word coming out of someone whose complexion is white that reminds us of the pain of our ancestors. Black people took something that was meant and originally used as evil, and we turned it into a term of endearment. So white people, I submit that you can't, shouldn't, and nor should you ever have a desire to say that word, whether quoting a rap song, a movie, or anything. Because remember, that word is truly synonymous with hatred. The abolitionist Frederick Douglass, he wrote when talking about his master that reading and learning would spoil an N-word. Because remember, black people were nothing more than a slave to their master. And when you think about, well, then why are black people saying it? And if I can't say it, then you shouldn't either, black person. We've been oppressed for so long, our rights have for so long been limited, that for you to now try to again limit our speech, it's painful. So that's why, in a nutshell, in a few minutes and seconds, why you can't say the N-word. And another question I've gotten so often, how come black people care more about white on black crime than black on black crime? It's not that we don't care about black on black crime, but let me propose this. When a black person commits a crime, they go to jail. When a white person commits a crime, they get off. And hopefully, they even get arrested. Ahmaud Arbery, the black man that was chased and gunned down by 2 white men in Georgia, it took us 2 months to arrest those perpetrators. And the only reason we did? Because we saw the video. Imagine if camera phones didn't exist. Black on black crime is an issue. But if you do the research, high violent crimes are all interracial. Blacks kill blacks, whites kill whites, Hispanics kill Hispanics. So it's not that we don't care, but it's the same issue as why y'all saying Black Lives Matter when all lives matter. We understand all lives matter, but right now, black people are dying at the hands of white people, and I can't change that. Only you, my white friends, y'all can change that. So if you want to know how can you help, how can you stand with us, how can you stand with me, you must first educate yourself so you know exactly what you're standing for and why you're standing. Because the only way we can solve this issue is through exposure, through education, through compassion, and through empathy. Thank y'all for tuning in to the first of hopefully many episodes of Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man. Consider this a safe space to educate yourself and help me help you by leaving your questions and sharing this video. Because while you might think you're not ignorant, someone you know and someone you love, they may be.
All I can say is wow. That was an amazing video, and that took a lot of courage to make that video and answer those questions that people might have been afraid to ask. So in the conclusion of the video, as you heard, the only way to solve these issues is through education, which is why in turn we are doing this segment. Please continue to educate yourself through reading, watching videos, and being open to having those uncomfortable conversations.
Having heard all this information, are you an ally? Take out a piece of paper and give yourself a check mark if you agree with any of the following statements.
Number 1, I have actively avoided conversations about racism. Number 2, I have refused to confront racist acts I have witnessed or committed. 3, sometimes I do nothing because I'm simply paralyzed by feelings of guilt, shame, and fear. Or 4, I have accused Black people of being racist when they have pointed out racist acts. If you answered yes or checked yes to any of these questions or marked any of these boxes with a check mark, then you have some work to do to becoming an ally, which is good news because it's never too late, and the first step to doing anything better is acknowledging that you're not doing it as good as you can be. BT, you can take action right now. Anti-racist work is a journey. So try to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you too can be a fully functioning ally. And I say fully functioning ally because the word ally is a verb, and it meaning that is a continuous action that is always a constant decision. As we all know, two is better than one, so when allies join together, like you see, they broaden their impact. Unified Cultures is the BT Diversity Club, and our goal is to unify cultures and promote awareness, tolerance, and unity. The time to do the work is now. Finally, due to restrictions, our other members of UCDCs couldn't be here, but we're going to shout them out anyways. So our members are David Akintola, Christiana Babatunde, Coralie Mucko, Lucia Lee, Zubi Obu, Elizabeth Bogondo, and Daniel Matashe. And maybe one day you, because you can always join Unified Cultures at any time. Thank you so much for listening, BT. Remember that Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a good ally. So with that, I leave you. God bless you. Have a great day. Have a fantastic day, and do great things today, BT.
Thank you, BT.
Thank you, BT, for listening to that important announcement. I hope you guys all have a great day.